Pro wrestling's all about personality, which is why it's crucial that wrestlers are given good gimmicks. However, promotions are often known for getting things wrong in the creative department, and sometimes their mistakes can ruin a good wrestler's career. So here are 10 famous examples of this happening. First, we got Damien Sandow. Damien Sandow became a great heel thanks to his intellectually stuck-up character who berated the fans and wrestlers. After a great partnership with Cody Rhodes, things were looking up when he won the Money in the Bank in 2013. However, he'd lose most of his matches afterwards, and would become the second ever wrestler to lose a cashed-in title shot. After this, he was demoted to the mid-card with a gimmick in which he impersonated random characters, from wrestlers to various celebrity icons. The fans still seemed to like Sandow despite the fall from grace, as he eventually became the Miz's stunt double, and he was branded as Damien Mizdow. This would turn him into a fan favourite, but the WWE still had him doing comedic impressions after their team broke up. The company didn't even really try to capitalise on his momentum. So after this, Sandow becomes sort of an afterthought, as he was mostly used as enhancement talent, or he just wrestled on live events. He'd briefly returned to his original intellectual saviour character, and always managed to get a positive crowd reaction despite losing all his matches. The WWE would then release him to everyone's surprise and dismay. But either way, this is a classic example of the company not striking the iron when it was hot. Next we got Simon Dean. Michael Bucci, also known as Nova, had a rough time in WWE. While he was a super entertaining character in promotions such as ECW, they gave him the role of Simon Dean. This was a fitness instructor who bragged about the Simon System, a program of diet and exercise. He had vignettes in the form of fitness infomercials, and he constantly berated the fans for not being fit enough. As interesting as the gimmick was, it didn't do him any favours as he didn't get over, ruining what could have been a promising WWE career. Next we have Fred Ottman, or the Shockmaster. Wrestling has had many bad debuts, but the Shockmaster is considered to be the very worst in the sport's history. The Shockmaster was going to make his first appearance in WCW as part of a team of babyfaces in an 8-man War Games matchup in 1993. He was portrayed by Fred Ottman, who was previously part of the Natural Disasters, a popular team in the cartoon era of the WWE. Both the teams were stacked with legends, so he was going to be debuting in a big way. Sting even introduced him excitedly before an anxious audience. However, things went downhill from there really fast. The Shockmaster tripped over a piece of lumber and fell through the breakable wall that he was supposed to bash through and make his insane debut. His Stormtrooper helmet came off while his peers were shocked. He got up and put the helmet back on, and after a delay due to laughter, Ole Anderson delivered the voiceover. The crowd was completely silent, and pretty much all the wrestlers had just broken character. The only person really taking the angle seriously was Sid Vicious, who just kept yelling at him. This incident followed Ottman for the rest of his career, as the Shockmaster became a joke and one of wrestling's funniest running gags. Next we've got Paul Burchill. Despite showing a lot of potential when he showed up to the WWE, Paul Burchill was doomed as soon as his partnership with William Regal ended. He was given a stereotypical pirate gimmick, which turned him into a joke. It was kind of like Steve the Pirate off Dodgeball. But it got a lot worse once they paired him up with his kayfabe sister, Katie Lee. This time, he was shown to be attracted to his sister, and you'll probably agree that the incest enthusiast gimmick was 1,000 times worse for his career than the pirate one. Next we got Dean Malenko. Dean Malenko is one of the most technically gifted wrestlers of all time. He was very respected in WCW as the man of 1,000 holds, a cold, calculated villain. However, the WWE didn't care much for his reputation, and he would be called Double Ho 7, a sexual predator who was infatuated with Lita. He tried to gain her affection, and even faced her in the ring. He'd eventually lose to Lita, and later would feud with Ivory and Jacqueline as well. While some argue that this was a funny gimmick, it certainly wasn't befitting a classy legend like Malenko. After this, he'd fade into obscurity, rarely wrestling, and focusing on more backstage roles. Next we got Shane Douglas. Shane Douglas was red hot during the mid-90s, as he was known as the franchise of ECW. He's credited with kickstarting the rise of the Extreme promotion after winning the NWA title. Douglas famously threw down the NWA title belt while raising the ECW World Heavyweight title, ushering in a new alternative to WWE and WCW. You'd expect that he'd be treated like a star in WWE, but the opposite happened. Instead of the edgy gimmick that he had, he was featured as Dean Douglas. Douglas was a teacher who used to grade the performances of his opponents, literally. He used to present them with report cards and would carry a paddle as well. The gimmick flopped as it was completely cheesy in contrast to what he was doing in ECW. His momentum completely derailed and he left the company after a spat with Vince McMahon. Next we got Terry Taylor. Terry Taylor was a rising star back in the 1980s during the territory days. He saw a lot of success under the umbrella of the NWA, and he was considered an all-rounder since he was technically proficient in the ring, had a great look, and was decent on the microphone. Taylor joined the WWE in 1988, and you'd expect his career to skyrocket. However, for some reason he was given the Red Rooster gimmick. This had him put on a red attire, which is fine, along with dyeing his hair red and styling it like a rooster's comb, which is not fine. He was also supposed to strut around the ring like a rooster. As expected, this gimmick left a poor impact on his otherwise promising career, and he wasn't taken as seriously as he should have been despite dropping the act post-WWE. Next we got DDP. Diamond Dallas Page is one of the biggest success stories of the wrestling world. He started as a manager and also worked as a ring announcer and a commentator from time to time. He was a late bloomer and would eventually become a wrestler himself and became one of the biggest and most beloved babyfaces in WCW during the NWO era. He'd become world champion as well. However, things went downhill from there as he joined the WWE and was revealed to be the infamous stalker of The Undertaker's wife Sarah. This was during the Invasion angle, and so Page was a part of Team WECW. Like most of its other members, he was too embarrassed by the angle's writers. After getting destroyed by Taker, he was then given the gimmick of a motivational speaker, which is also forgettable. He would eventually retire after a neck injury, and it was quite a downward spiral for the man who teamed up with Karl Malone against Hulk Hogan and Dennis Rodman, all in their prime. Thankfully, he found a lot of financial success as a yoga instructor later on, and has also helped several veteran wrestlers get their life back in order. Next we got Mike Awesome. The late Mike Awesome was a freak of nature, as he was a big man who could move like lightning. Mike Awesome was a star in Japan and ECW, and then moved to WCW under controversial circumstances. Early on, he was pushed by the company who put him against their top stars and gave him a career killer gimmick. Sadly, WCW didn't realise his potential, and they gave him a bunch of silly gimmicks that you wouldn't even wish upon the worst mid-carders. He was quickly turned into the fat chick thriller as he became infatuated with obese women, and not long after, he became that 70s guy. A parody of that 70s show, of course. He started to dress up in 70s clothing, hosting a talk show, and even got a bus as a prop. This was followed up by a stint as the Canadian career killer, similar to his first gimmick but with more maple syrup. He joined Team Canada as a result, and his final humiliation ritual was having his iconic mullet cut off. He didn't do anything significant afterwards, and he was kind of treated like a background character. Mercifully, WCW folded before anything else could be done to damage his career further. Mike Awesome blamed the creative downfall on Vince Russo, blaming him for punishing him for being a distant relative of his sworn enemy, Hulk Hogan. And finally, we've got Mark Capani, also known as Muhammad Hassan. This gimmick was too great for its own good. Mark Capani was an unknown wrestler of Italian descent brought up from OVW to be branded as Muhammad Hassan. Hassan was to be an Arab-American character who, unlike the scary foreign heels of the past, was supposed to be a take on the legitimate issues faced by Arab Americans after 9/11. The character was a success as he received nuclear heat from the crowd, despite voicing out his concerns of being discriminated against for something he had nothing to do with. The WWE pushed him, giving him lots of screen time and putting him in programs with their biggest stars. But it was Hassan's feud with The Undertaker that led to the character's demise. The WWE went overboard as it aired a controversial segment days before the London attacks of 2005. It saw The Undertaker being attacked by terrorists which led to UPN stating that they wouldn't air the segment. This, along with public pressure and Capani's issues backstage, led to the WWE eventually dropping him and his subsequent retirement from wrestling. Mark Capani would then become a high school history teacher and later a principal. Although, the end of his wrestling career makes fans wonder what he could have accomplished with the character. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, click here for another, and if you want to become a dog yourself, check the links in the description.